This is the Personal Finance Show with your host, Bo Humphreys.
Hello, and welcome to the Personal Finance Show. I'm Bo Humphreys, and joining me today is Jessica Moorhouse. Jessica is a millennial personal finance expert, an award-winning blogger, host of the Mo Money podcast, and founder of the Millennial Money Meetup. So Jessica and I met at a party at Wealthsimple last year. I looked around the room for any familiar faces, and I went up to Jessica and I was like, "Hey, I saw you on the internet. You're like famous." And they accepted me into the group, and I of course proceeded to tell her and personal finance expert Barry Choi, what up, Barry?
Yeah, Barry.
My entire life story, as I typically do when I first meet everybody. Jessica immediately booked me on her podcast, where I got the opportunity to tell my story for the first time. It's only fitting that I have Jessica as a guest on my podcast today. Jessica's a bit of a big deal in the world of Canadian personal finance. She's frequently featured by major media outlets, including CBC, CTV, Toronto Star, Globe and Mail, Chatelaine Magazine, even the Huffington Post. Every podcast and all the blogs that are on the internet. She's the go-to personal finance expert for millennials. Welcome, Jessica.
That is, can you just follow me around and tell people that? That sounds, I sound awesome.
You wrote a lot of that stuff. Some of it's from your website.
I guess I have done that stuff, but I don't like bragging or anything.
No,
so
but
thank you for that amazing introduction.
The media mentions page on your site is I was like, I'll go see, I'll go look at some of them. Maybe I missed some when I was looking through, and it's there's 47 things on there.
It's getting
in 2 years.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. I've been blogging for 5.
Yes.
So no one cared a crap about me for a good 3 years.
Isn't it more like 6 now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's over 5. It's 5.5.
5.5?
5.5. So it's been a good past couple years, but I mean, I've definitely put in the work with no attention at all for a good, most of that career.
Yeah.
So I feel like I earned a little bit.
So I'll see you in 5 years, and then we'll see what my media mentions.
Well, hopefully it doesn't take you that long. I think for me, there's a couple of things that I definitely would have changed. I had a silly blog name. I didn't really have much of a direction for my blog, and
you were how old when you started?
Oh gosh, 25.
25. Yeah.
25, 24, 25.
Bit of a quarter life.
It was my. I think it was a little bit of a quarter life crisis.
Time to start a blog.
Time to start a blog. It's
and
an easy thing
learn
to
about
do.
money at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't make a damn dime off
you
that
didn't make
blog.
any, but you're learning about it.
But I was learning about money for sure.
And helping other people. And we're going to get into that in a sec. But first, I need to talk about this millennial thing.
Yeah.
And what it's all about. So
okay.
I'm going to read a little snippet from the internet about millennials.
Oh, no, it's not going to be nice, is it?
So, okay, just because this is very selfish for me, by the way. Millennials grew up in an electronics-filled and increasingly online and socially networked world. And you can tell me if you agree with any of this. They are a generation that has received the most marketing attention. As the most ethnically diverse generation, millennials tend to be tolerant of difference, and I would hope everybody is tolerant of difference.
Yeah.
Having been raised under the mantra, follow your dreams, and being told they were special, they tend to be confident. While largely a positive trait, the millennial generation's confidence has been argued to spill over into the realms of entitlement and narcissism.
I don't agree with that.
They are often seen as slightly more optimistic about the future than other generations, despite the fact that they are the first generation since the silent generation. I think that's
I've never
before
heard of that
boomers.
One.
No,
Oh,
is that? I don't know when that.
We'll have to Google that.
That they're expected to be less economically successful than their parents.
Yeah, that's clear.
One reported result of millennial optimism is entering into adulthood with unrealistic expectations, which sometimes leads to disillusionment. We'll talk about your house purchase later on. Many early millennials went through post-secondary education only to find themselves employed in unrelated fields.
Yep.
or underemployed and job hopping more frequently than previous generations.
Yep.
Yeah, so their expectations may have resulted from the very encouraging, involved, and almost ever-present group of parents that became known as helicopter parents.
I did not have those, so I don't know that.
Yeah, I don't think I did either.
I was lucky.
So
my parents were too busy to be helicopter parents. They had like 3 kids to raise and have jobs.
Exactly, right? I feel like I fit into this a lot. And
I do, except for like the point about technology, because honestly, technology I didn't grow up with technology. We didn't get a computer until I want to say we were in middle school, and we had one for the family, and we had to share, and it was, the dial-up. So if a phone call came in and you answered it, we'd all be like, "No, the internet."
And
no,
what,
on
like,
the don't answer the
well,
phone.
what year would that have been? Even
I don't know, 90s at some point. I can't
early
remember.
or late? Because I was on the internet in '94.
Yeah,
when they had like 24 baud modems. Baud is a term that I haven't used in a long time.
I don't remember, but I do remember, though, it was a big deal getting the computer. We got a Mac. It was, I want to say, and I don't know if this number is accurate, but I want to say it was like $8,000. It was like an incredibly huge purchase for my family, but my dad was a graphic designer at the time. He wanted to do some freelance, and he wanted to splurge, and he wanted to get a computer, because he's like, this is going to be big, guys. And he was right.
Computers are going to be big.
He was right. He was right. Computers were big. But before we had that computer, I remember my older sister, who's only 3 years older than me, having to use our typewriter to do assignments. And I had to do that too,
Well, I did that in school. Did you have typing class in school, or was it computers?
Not with typewriters. We never had typewriters in class, but we did eventually, like, there just wasn't a class for that, but there eventually was a class for computer. It was called computer class.
Computer class.
I don't think that's a class. That can't be a class.
Did you see that movie about the ladies that worked at NASA behind the scenes?
No, I haven't.
It's a fantastic movie.
I bet it is.
They were so smart.
They're super smart.
And they were called computers.
Oh,
that's
really?
what they were.
Oh my
and then they had this
gosh.
big IBM computer come in, and I'm like, that's the computer.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the sign above the door said computers.
Oh my god!
And it was just people.
They're computing.
Because they're computing.
Oh.
Before the right, and I don't know why that totally just blew my mind.
That is kind of like my.
But it was awesome, and also I really they are awesome. The actresses, they're great. They're all good.
But yeah, the technology thing, I think it's more prevalent in maybe younger millennials. And again, like millennials, I think a lot of people are confused with like the range. It's a pretty big range,
and
right?
so that's another thing I want to talk about. So I was born in 1980, and I have about 3 or 4 stats that say that means I'm a millennial.
Yeah.
However, a lot of people like to start in 82. A lot of people start even earlier. I don't think my brother was born in 78. I don't think he's a millennial at all.
Yeah,
but
it's like, what is the line between
one.
millennial and Gen X?
Right?
That's the
I feel like it's not like, if not, if I don't fit into it, which I feel like I do, no matter if the age range fits me in.
Yeah.
But that's like most of them are like a 14-year, 15-year period. Some of them are like a 25-year thing. How can you be the same as someone 25 years apart?
I know, and I know there's another Generation Z is like the newest generation, but I don't know when that started exactly. But it makes sense. Like those are clearly kids who are probably like in like middle school and possibly high school right now. And it's true, I don't know if I quite relate to them. They scare me a little bit with all of their, like, they could probably code whatever. Well,
when they were babies.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They have baby books. Like I bought one for a friend of mine.
Babies are on iPads now. Like, it's terrifying.
So what year were you born in?
86.
86. So you're definitely millennial, probably right in the middle of it.
Right in the middle.
So you can relate to ones that are born in 94 or the ones that are born
and
even
I think
earlier.
It helps. I've got an older sister and a younger sister.
Okay.
My younger sister's 6 years younger. My older sister's 3 years older. So I kind of have, I don't know, I feel like I kind of understand both of their point of views too, from being older and younger.
And why millennial money expert? Is it just because everybody's looking for the perspective of a millennial these days?
It's just because that is my perspective and that's my audience.
Yeah.
And so, and I know a lot of people hate me using the term expert, but I'm not saying that I'm an expert in that I know all. I mean, that's ridiculous. No one knows everything. It's more, I want to let people know that this content that I was putting out on my blog, my podcast, my YouTube channel, my social medias, it was from the perspective of someone who really knows what's going on when it comes to money for millennials.
This is what you do. It's not just like you're working.
It's like, I've been writing about this. I've been researching this. I've been talking to hundreds, not thousands of people over 5 years. I definitely know a bit about that stuff.
Yeah, more than the
You
person
know.
who's like, if you just answer a question off the street
Yeah.
and you're a scientist during the day and it's about personal finance, you can't call yourself an expert.
Yeah, I
Right?
know. That I mean, that's a whole other topic, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm like a little regretful of like ever saying, "Oh, I'm an expert." It's like I'm an expert in what I know. I'm self-taught when it comes to personal finance, though I am working towards becoming an accredited financial counselor, just so people
I wanna
know
talk about that,
Yeah. No, I'm loving it. I'm loving the program, but I've also done some courses, and I've done a ton of research and read a mountain of personal finance books. So something I love.
Well,
to do.
that's good. So you've hit a few milestones lately with your podcast in terms of number of downloads, perhaps, and
Yeah.
also number of shows.
I know. Went
You
by
wanna talk
fast.
like where you at?
I just released at the date of this recording 105. I'm at 105 for episodes, so I've
In-
crossed the 100 episode
Almost
threshold.
2 years.
in almost 2 years. Yeah, 2-year anniversary will be June 3rd.
June.
So coming up real quick. And as for kind of downloads, listens, or whatever, I'm at like 250,000. So I'm
How do
hoping
you
to get
measure?
to
Is it
300,000.
iTunes? Like
Well, I put
or
it lots
Podtrack?
of places. My podcast host is Libsyn.
okay,
From
yeah.
there, you can send it to a bunch of different destinations, as they call them. So it's
Yes.
on iTunes, it's on SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, a bunch of other places that you can find at Podbean. I also put it on YouTube because someone told me, "Hey, you should put this on YouTube." I'm like, "Does anyone listen to podcasts on YouTube?" Apparently, they do.
Yeah,
so
I'm gonna
glad
be
I
doing
did,
that.
Yeah, you should
I basically
absolutely do that. Yeah.
look at whatever you do and I do that.
Well, go ahead. I'm not like I didn't invent it, so I stole it from other people.
No, 'cause-
Like if that looks like a good idea, I guess I'll do that.
Honestly, I'll see podcasts because
Yeah.
when I was creating a podcast, I'm like, well, I better look at some best practices
Yeah.
or how is it done. Like, it's a new thing when you don't know how
Oh,
it's done.
totally.
How do I get a podcast on iTunes?
Oh, I listened to podcasts about podcasting. Like
That's right,
in depth.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I just see podcasts, and maybe they're just on iTunes, but they're not on the other things, and it's
I know.
like free to submit.
Yeah.
And I'm on like A-Track or whatever that
Yeah.
is now, the Bean one,
Mhm.
Podbean, and apparently some pick up directly from iTunes, so it's great.
Yeah.
So now you're everywhere.
Yeah,
right?
well, that's what I kind of found. Like before, I'm like, oh, should I put it in just a couple places, or and same even with social media. It's like, should I just be on like Twitter or should I be on Instagram or whatever? If you want to really reach as many people as possible, you need to be where they're at.
Yeah.
And that's a big reason I started the podcast in the first place is, I had the blog for a bit, but I'm like, I wonder if I'll reach like new people or more people if I have a podcast. And what I didn't really realize at the time was when I started the podcast, I was reaching completely new people that still probably listen to my podcast have no idea I have a blog.
Yeah, I like that.
And
You're
it's like,
right.
that's actually kind of cool.
It's a totally different thing because, I don't go around and read a lot of blogs. Like I write, I read some, but I don't read as much, because I have a
Yeah.
history of attention deficit disorder. I'm medicated, but the reading is something that really kind of still remains difficult for me. So I'll do it. I like reading.
Yeah.
But if I have the option to listen to something,
Yeah.
it just seems to have much more of an impact. I can do it while I'm walking to work.
Absolutely.
You can
Yeah.
do it while you're doing other things, even.
Oh, exactly.
Making dinner, washing dishes. It's actually really great. So you have a lot, and I've listened to a lot of them. So
I've listened to all of them.
one thing,
I've had to.
You live them. You have a listener series that you started
do,
just in September. Is that right?
I think
Or-
it was in September.
just
I
this
can't
past year,
remember,
in
so it hasn't been a
2016.
year yet.
Yeah.
And honestly, I tell people it's one of the proudest thing I've ever started because it started with I just started getting lots of emails from people being like, I love your show. And they just email me their whole life story.
See, that's
and I'm
great.
like, what do I do with all this information? This is great. I'd love to share it. If they're a podcast listener and they're sharing me my story, what's the best medium to share their story? It's on the podcast. And I was terrified that people were like, oh, I don't want to share it. Most of them are so excited to share
Yeah,
their
they
story.
already sent you.
And most of
the
them are like,
emails.
can I just be a little bit anonymous? You can say my first
Sure,
name. And I'm
okay,
like, that's
yeah,
fine. No one's
yeah.
going to figure out who you are by your stories. So yeah, it's awesome being able to share the stories of my listeners to other listeners. So it's like creating this really cool online podcast community, helping people through just their stories. So it's not just the perspective of people that study personal finance or work in the industry or write books about it. It's people that, they've got a job doing whatever, but they have to deal with personal finance in their day-to-day lives. This is how they manage.
Well, that's the thing about personal finance, right? Everybody's got it. It's one of
Everyone's
those
got
things.
money and everyone does it a little bit differently.
You also do some monologues.
I do. Yeah, I haven't done a lot recently, but I'm definitely going to do one for my kind of final episode of season 4, which will be coming up. So I'm excited. I love those. I just
they
get a glass of wine and I just have the
well,
mic.
yeah,
make sure my husband's
mentioned
gone,
that.
and I just talk to myself in the microphone for 30 minutes, and it's like going to therapy a little bit. I'm talking myself through my problems.
They sound very therapeutic.
They are.
Because you're just okay, the one about your house, right?
Yeah, that was
after you moved in.
I was having a bit of a
couple
crisis
of months,
after the house, I think.
It's like, I had to buy this stuff, and this is broken, and this is that. And after you're done, you sounded like...
I felt better.
I feel so much better. Are blogging and more so the podcasting, are they therapy?
Oh, for sure.
For you and for maybe your guests too.
Other people where they could be like, oh, good, I'm not the only one dealing with this.
Right?
I'm not and I think that's a big reason why I started the blog and then the podcast. I would read blogs, I would listen to podcasts, and when I would connect with someone else's story or what they were saying, I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone in this world. There's a community of people out there just like me, and it makes you feel special and good, and just everything's gonna be okay because I'm not doing this thing for the first time like no one else has.
Yeah, I know. I know that feeling listening to some of your guests, is it Garrett Philbin?
Yes.
Garrett, I forget the name of his company.
Be Awesome Not Broke is his website.
So he was great, and then the mindfulness one. I think I want
Lisa
to talk
Peterson,
about
she's
mindfulness a
that
little
was
bit
when
too.
I talked to her, I literally felt like we had a therapy session. She was so amazing.
Well, and what about accountability? Do you because you're like, I'm gonna go do that thing. Do you feel like you have to do something if you say it in a podcast?
Yep.
Is it
yeah? What did I say? Did I say something recently?
No. I'm just.
I'm like, oh shit.
I'm just wondering because we all are like, oh, I like that podcast. Yeah. I'm gonna do that, and then you go and you sit in front of the TV, and nobody knows.
Yeah.
But you have this thing where you're like, I just told a whole bunch of people that I'm gonna
true.
do this, and they could possibly follow up with me and say, hey, did you do that?
That's true. Yeah, I feel like anything I kind of say I'm gonna do that, I've done, and that's a lot of the things. I mean, I feel like, for instance, this whole idea of I want to eventually, offer, a service to help people through money coaching. I really like helping people one-on-one. And so I put that out in the universe on the blog, I think over a year ago, maybe even a year and a half ago. And I felt like ever since then, I'm like, I really need to get my stuff together to do that, which is
lights
why
a bit of a fire, right?
Yes, exactly. So I felt like I can't just put that out there and not take some steps to actually get to that point, which is what I'm doing right now.
There's a phrase that I like that I've been hearing a lot, and I listen to James Altucher's podcast. I don't know if you know him, but he has guests like Tony Robbins and
Tony Robbins. Oh my God, I love him.
And Tim Ferriss and other people who have podcasts that are crazy popular. A lot of people use the term ready, fire, aim instead of ready, aim, fire, because you're basically saying, I'm going to do the thing and then figuring out how to do it maybe. Yeah. But if you announce it first or if you commit to it, there's much more of a fire lit under you for that. A lot of people spend a lot of time, and I'm very guilty of this, of just aiming, right? Looking for the right time to do the thing.
Yeah, that's never the right time. Just do it.
That's
what I've learned as I've gotten older. It's to just do it. I mean, that's a big reason why I started my Millennial Money Meetup. I wanted to have an event where it was, everyone's welcome, obviously, but the content is focused to educate millennials about something about personal finance. And I am not an event planner at all. And I am also, at that point, I hadn't done too much public speaking. So it was actually still quite new.
That was before you did FinCon?
Yeah, that was before I did the Ignite speaking thing at FinCon. And a couple other things in the fall. Those are things that I want to get better at, that I wanted to do. So I put it out in the universe. I'm like, I'm thinking of doing an event. And then I started reaching out to potential partners to help pay for it. And then once I got funding, I'm like, oh, I have to do this. And they're like, we want you to do this event. It was EQ Bank who sponsored that event, the first one.
They give you a chunk of money to do it.
They gave me a chunk of money, and they're like, we want you to, you have a month to put it together.
And what was the venue?
It was at Second Floor Events in downtown Toronto, so it was a very nice venue.
How many people could
140 people
came. And you were at capacity?
I was at capacity, yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it was a very successful event. We sold out and people came, and I am not an event planner, so I was terrified that no one would come to my party.
Sure, of course.
But it worked out in the end, and it was kind of like you said. It's like I made the plan and I did it, and then I kind of thought about it after, you know?
And when
It's
when they threw the chunk of money at you, you're like, I guess I really
well, the
have
pressure
to
was
do
on. I need to
this.
impress them, right?
Yeah. The podcasts I like the most are the
Mhm.
ones that are about change and fears, because I've gone through a lot of change and
Mhm.
I've faced a lot of fears. So other than like the personal finance theme that obviously runs through everything,
Mhm.
if I had to pick another major theme to describe the last couple of years,
Yeah.
it would be of you.
Yeah.
It would be change is good
Yeah.
and
inevitable.
and inevitable. Be yourself, put yourself out there.
Mhm.
Don't accept the status quo. Don't
Mhm.
let anyone tell you what you can or can't accomplish,
Mhm.
but also try to balance, right?
Yeah.
Money-life balance. Is that
Yes.
still your
It's still my mantra.
your
My
your
it'll
mantra,
be my
life
mantra. Absolutely. I'm
And-
always trying to get that right.
It's hard. Well, you know, it's hard to kind of go ahead with these things because, like, and maybe I'm listening to the wrong people, but
Mhm.
people like to think that change is bad. So, for as an
Mhm.
example, you can't go to school for one thing and then completely change and go to another direction. What a
Mhm.
waste of money! Why would you waste your money like that?
Is it really a waste of money if you learn something?
Yeah. So you learn something about yourself.
Mhm.
You know, so you stay the course and you be miserable, and then when you're 50, you look back and say, what did I do?
That is just such a crazy way of thinking.
Like, so this career for life thing, the career, marriage, house, babies, retirement, and
Yeah.
death,
Yeah.
right? That, like, this is not the way.
No, not
anymore.
anymore. Not anymore. And
No.
that's the thing. I think that's the issue. It's like it was the thing and that's fine, but it doesn't work anymore. And I always felt, and I think honestly, like looking back when me and my husband were thinking of moving out here to Toronto from Vancouver, we were kind of doing those steps. We started dating, I finished school, we got jobs in the city, moved to the city, got a place together, got married, and well, especially me, I was like, I was not happy. I was bored. I
Yeah.
was like so settled and it drove me nuts. I'm like, there's got to be something more to life. I felt like I ticked all those boxes and I'm like, I'm still unhappy. So
And some
I
people
had to change.
Some people like the boxes,
and that's
right?
fine. I mean, I still like some of the boxes, but sometimes if you recognize that you're not happy, but you're doing all those supposed things that you're supposed to do as an adult, you need to do something different then.
Yeah, you got to listen to what's going on inside,
Yeah.
right? You got to listen to yourself.
Mhm.
By the way, I love the fact that you guys listened to Harry Potter
Yeah,
on
we
the
did.
trip from.
I mean, it was my
Vancouver?
decision. Josh had no choice.
So, like, this is how many like hours were you in the car?
Shoot.
Or like
Oh,
how many
Lord.
days? Sorry, I should say.
I mean, I'd
'Cause
say
he
it took
drove-
us about a 2-week process from
Because he
Vancouver.
drove
we
the
did
whole way.
Yeah, poor guy, because I don't know how to drive stick, and he has that's his car. So he drove the whole way, but I didn't fall asleep once while he was driving because that's
Okay, yeah.
rude.
You
So
gotta-
that's kind of the deal,
gotta have a
right?
good,
I have to be the partner to
passenger,
keep
yeah.
him awake or whatever. And yeah, we had a great experience, but he said never again.
No.
Never again.
Never again
No.
for the driving or the
For
Harry Potter.
For the driving, I'd say. Like, we're thinking of going, we're going to the Maritimes for a wedding in the summer. And I'm like, should we drive? He's like, nope.
No. Well,
Flying.
at least you know. At least you.
Not that he doesn't like road tripping with me, but it's just like he
No.
just didn't like driving for that long.
Yeah,
and I'm
you
like,
know-
I get it.
You guys,
I get it.
you both could have spent your whole life saying, we need to go on a really long road trip just to see what it's like, and you got it over
We got it
with
out
quick.
of our system.
So now you know you don't want to
Now
do
we
that.
know.
It's
We
good.
would rather not.
Flying is much quicker.
Flying is better.
But road trips are also nice.
Yes.
Maybe try a short one next
yeah.
time.
Well,
if
next
you-
time I'll learn stick or something, or we'll rent a car that I can drive.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Let's talk about money feelings, personalities, as
Okay.
you would call them. So it turns out money is money when you put your feelings into it, which
Yep.
I think everyone probably should.
does.
It's really complicated.
Yeah, I know.
There's a whole lot of different things. So money or lack of money makes people feel a certain way. Some people need a lot. Some people don't need much. Some people want it so they feel free. Some people want to feel secure. Some people want to buy stuff. You want to talk about money personalities a little bit?
Yes. So I always kind of knew that different people relate to money differently. Money meant different things to different people. But when I did this course through the Canadian Securities Institute, and part of the curriculum was about, they didn't call it money personalities, but it was basically, talking about beliefs, values, and different money attitudes. And this really just like, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is like, I can't believe I just didn't know how to really categorize all of these things before. And it really hit home. I'm like, money means security to me.
Amen.
That's why I do all the things I do, is because that's what at the core money means to me.
And mine is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I've realized a lot, right? It just gives me the freedom to do now.
Yeah.
If I want to leave my job,
Yeah.
I can leave my job and
Yep.
I'm not too worried about it,
Mm-hmm.
or do other things, right? It doesn't mean stuff.
No.
No.
Yeah.
And I think for the people who it is stuff, it probably isn't really stuff.
No,
The stuff is covering for whatever the bad feelings.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. Like lots of the people, like the other kind of money personalities or attitudes is, there's power, there's love, and there's also personal value, or just like what you want people to think of you, basically.
So your image, sort of.
Kind of your image.
Yeah,
exactly.
you're portraying you having money in
Exactly.
your pocket makes you feel important, say, or
Yeah.
more confident.
Yes, exactly. And so, yeah, it's really interesting, especially once you kind of know these different money personalities, to then kind of see some of your friends or family members and to be like, oh, okay, this makes sense. 'Cause
Yeah.
I've got a variety of people in my life who spend money very differently, and it kind of makes sense based on their upbringing or experiences they've gone through in their life and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting.
We do a lot of color theory and Myers-Briggs. I've done that analysis,
Mhm.
and that's hard. That's harder to do that stuff with people who are unwilling. For a lot of these people, and especially the ones who are about stuff, mindfulness
Yes.
is a really good thing. So I've been through a 8-week mindfulness course. John Kabat-Zinn wrote
Nice.
a book called Full Catastrophe Living. I don't know if you've heard of that, but mindfulness for him, it was originally used for people who are in chronic pain. A lot of people in chronic pain, medication of any kind does
doesn't
not
work.
help. A lot of people are sent to John Kabat-Zinn's clinic. I forget where he is in the States. And they go through this program, and it helps them. Mindfulness is about your thoughts are just thoughts. You don't have to act on everything. And it really kind of connects to money. I never thought about it when I was going through the program about in terms of spending and stuff like that.
Totally.
But it's for me, it was I was in the gambling program, gambling recovery, and that was one of the first things that I did other than cognitive behavioral therapy. So mindfulness meditation, or just bringing mindfulness into your life, it's like, I don't have to buy that thing right now. Maybe I'll think about it.
Yep.
Maybe I don't need it. I'll just think about it for a week.
Yep.
Is that how would you apply mindfulness after having your awesome podcast with I forget her name now.
Lisa Peterson.
Lisa
Yeah.
Peterson, yeah.
I feel like I've always been kind of I've always been pretty mindful when it comes to spending. Sometimes I'm more mindful when I'm happy, I'm less mindful when I'm stressed and unhappy.
That's why you need to practice it.
Absolutely.
So that when you're
exactly, so then you can kind of, and so there's, I'm not a big like shopper or anything, but there's definitely certain things, especially if I'm like in an environment where there's stuff, like a mall or something. There's definitely things like, ooh, I would really like that bag or something like that. But instinctively, I won't ever just go buy something. I will like, and this is just like a habit I have like crafted over most of my life.
It's a good habit.
Yeah, and I think it comes from also because we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so you always had to be very careful. Like, if you want something, make sure that you only get one thing, kind of thing. And so this
you
kind
have
of
one chance. You can,
exactly
make it worth it.
Exactly.
Right?
And so this has followed me into adulthood, which is great because I don't generally buy stuff I regret buying. And when I do, because I have, like back in the fall, became self-employed. I'm like, I'm going to treat myself to a really nice laptop bag. I want a nice designer laptop bag, nothing crazy, but it was like a Marc Jacobs or whatever. And I'm like, I deserve it. And I went to Nordstrom and I spent like $400 on this stupid laptop bag. I bought it, came home, and I was so proud of myself. And look at this fancy bag. And then I'm like, huh. And then after like 2 days, I'm like, why the hell did I just spend $400 on this stupid laptop bag? I have one. It's, it's a bit damaged. It's a bit old, but it still works. And I don't really use my laptop bag that often.
Are you thinking of all the things you could have bought with that 400?
I started thinking about all the things that I could have. I'm like, I could have put that in savings. My income is still, fluctuating because now I'm earning in a different way.
That's true.
This really probably isn't the time to splurge on a designer laptop bag that you probably won't get as much use out of as you want. So what I did was I returned it.
Okay. Well, that it's still mindfulness. It's after the fact.
Exactly.
But
you can still and that's the thing. It's like I think a lot of people forget once you buy something, it's like you can still return it.
Usually, check if it's final sale or not.
Exactly. Be always conscious of that because then you can. And then I felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders once I left that store, returned it, and got my money back. I can't believe it.
It's a really good feeling. I think it's Warren Buffett. He never spent any of his money. He never wanted to. He just wanted to make it. It was fun for him. But I think one of the things he would do, if I remember my readings correctly, is he would like calculate the compound interest on that, like over whatever period of time. And he would like, I can't spend that. This could turn into $8,000 in 30 years. He can't apply it to everything, of course. But it's kind of a good, if you have that in the back of your head, like, I'm 20 years old. This $20 that I just put in the bank could be, $400 at some point in the near future.
Yeah,
that could be powerful for you, right?
Absolutely.
Wellness is good, like mind wellness, and for money, like overall wellness.
Yeah, I feel like once you really do take care of yourself in other aspects, like, I'm a big fan of fitness. Obviously, I'm coming out with a course that's about fitness and finance.
Yeah.
But,
what is it? The Rich and Fit Boot Camp?
Rich and Fit Boot Camp.
Yeah, I like
so
this.
It will be coming out shortly, soon. We're working our hardest on it right now. But I feel like once you really kind of figure out your fitness, your health, you've got your mind right, you just make sure all the other elements of your life are good and are just how you want them to be. It kind of reflects in your money. Like, I'm way happier now. I'm less stressed out. I'm working out. I'm eating a healthier diet. I'm treating people nicer because I'm happier. Like, all these things. And also, I'm not spending like crazy because I don't want anything, because I realize I have everything I need.
And when you're busy, you don't necessarily have the time to buy things because you're busy either interacting with people or being productive or doing things. And you don't need, say, a new television because you never watch it.
Exactly.
You don't need cable TV. You might just need to take a page from Sean Cooper's book. You just get $10 a month Netflix.
Yep.
Why does everyone need an $80 cable package?
Exactly.
The other thing is fast food.
Yeah.
When you're stressed, you're going to eat fast food. You're gonna, I have no time. You think you have no time, right? Because you're stressed out and maybe you're not happy. So you eat fast food. It makes you feel bad.
Yep.
And it costs like, I don't know, sometimes 10 times.
I know. It's actually not cheap.
It's
like,
not.
That's the thing. It's really not that cheap.
In a way, it's good that fast food costs money because you think about it, I just made a bunch of salads on Sunday for the week and I've been eating those. I feel great. They cost nothing. Right?
I know. Whenever I am starving at my house, I'm like, okay, well, luckily I live really close to a grocery store. So I'm like, it's really not much more effort to go to that grocery store and buy some stuff than to go to the McDonald's or whatever. And even if I am starving, I try my best. I'm like, okay, if you're really, really hungry, buy yourself a pre-made smoothie and like a bag of salad and like some kind of protein. Yeah. And then you will be fine. So I think it's like, if you have, especially when it comes to like just talking about food more, if you know, okay, what are some easy, quick things to just pick up from the grocery store that are still healthy, that's way better than like waiting in line at McDonald's, eating something terrible for you, and you feel bad after.
You kind of have to, if you're busy or even if you're stressed, especially, you got to have a food plan. I think that's really important.
Just like have snacks all around you, like nuts, protein bars. Just have those everywhere. Yeah,
is it part of your Rich and Fit boot camp? You want to talk a little more about it, or like if we're spoiling anything?
So,
I think
I'm
I like the idea.
I'm not the expert in the course at all.
So you're partnered with my
partner Jacqueline Phillips,
personal trainer.
Yes.
Okay.
So and she recently is entrepreneur now too. She quit her 9-to-5 to focus on her fitness business, but she's rocking it right now. It just made sense for her to just focus on her own business now because she's a fitness model. She's a fitness coach. So she trains people for shows and also helps them work out, creates fitness plans for them and everything like that. Yeah, she's rocking it. And so we used to work together and we started chatting about our own side hustles. I did the blog.
You worked at a company together?
Yeah, we both worked at a law firm together.
Oh, okay. So you both had things that weren't in the realm that you wanted to be in.
Yeah, well, she was in, one department, I was in another, but there was one night where we were both working late, and so she came around to my cubicle like, oh, you're still here? And then started chit-chatting about our side hustles and realized, oh, she's in fitness, I'm in finance, and when we started talking about them, we realized how many parallels there are between fitness and finance.
As we just talked about.
Yeah,
exactly.
and I'd never really put two and two together, and neither did she. Yeah. And I'm like, one of the things I've always struggled with is my fitness and my weight. Like, sometimes I'll be rocking it and like take it really seriously, and then I'll go back to like my old ways. And she's like, same way for finance. Sometimes I'm really good, sometimes I'm not so good. I'm like, we should like come together and create something together.
Let's do it, right?
What a crazy concept.
That sounds awesome. Okay, so you put it together, and it's going
to be an online 7-week course to teach people how to like from scratch, how to deal with their finances and their fitness.
in sort of in tandem, because people
in tandem.
sometimes might focus on one or the other. I'm going to go to
Exactly.
the gym just so I don't have to look at my taxes.
Exactly. Yeah.
But-
No, it's like, it's basically like a full, lifestyle kind of course. So it's
I like that.
integrating, smart money management and also fitness. And then eventually, because I'm right now doing the fitness part, like I'm doing all of her workouts
Of
to
course.
say that
Yeah.
I can do all of them,
Yeah.
and they're not easy, but I'm loving them. Like I feel so amazing.
Good. And it's you can start working out or go to the gym
Yeah.
or whatever, even say you have a gym in your building.
Mhm.
But when you sign up for something
Yeah.
or pay for something, there's that accountability there.
There's an account,
and to yourself, especially if it's a personal finance bit,
Mhm.
you're like, I spent some of my money that I budgeted probably for
Yeah.
on this, so
Yeah.
I'm going to make the most of it.
Yeah, there's that accountability. We also have a Facebook group specifically for students. So you'll see other people doing the program with you, so you feel like you're doing it together. We're also going to do kind of Facebook Lives in that group, so we can do, ask me anything kind of thing. So it really is like about teaching people, but creating a community, because I think that's the biggest struggle with money and finance. It's like that information's out there for free.
Yeah.
But if it was that easy to do on your own without that kind of accountability and that structure and that guide, well, we'd all be super rich and fit.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to do with being a
Yeah.
personal finance
Yeah.
coach. I can easily give you all the
Mhm.
4 steps that are in my program,
Yeah.
but you're not going to do them.
No. You need
If
to
I'm
have
there-
that like sense of, if I don't do it, someone's gonna know, and I don't want to.
I'm just
you need to
there in
have
the
that.
background. I'm hovering
Mhm.
and saying maybe every once in a while, hey, how's it going?
Exactly.
Right? And that's kind of a lot of
effective.
people need.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't take up a lot of time.
Yeah.
But just being there. And
Mhm.
so that's why I'm really committing to being there for
Yeah.
the person's life. It doesn't just stop, like any sort of program, like once you're good,
Mhm.
you would have done it yourself.
Exactly.
Already.
And that's why we're creating it. It's like, if this is meant for people that really do want to take it seriously for a good 7 weeks. And 7 weeks is actually, that's a long chunk of time to dedicate full force into these 2 aspects of your life.
It
But
is.
I'm
And
excited about it.
so you credit counseling program.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. No, I'm.
What is the accreditation called? I think
So
I've
it's
seen it.
it's the accredited financial counselor program. There's
Okay.
one in Canada. There's also one in the States.
It's based off of the state's program, I think I
yeah,
read. And they
but
adapted it? Or
but the education is all,
it's all
Canadian.
Canadian-based.
It's a completely different curriculum, but it's kind of the same program, so to speak. The whole purpose and the reason I chose this program was because it is to educate you to eventually become a counselor. So it's like, I never wanted to. I kind of struggled with this. I wanted to get some kind of formal education because I was just self-taught, but I didn't want to become a certified financial planner because I don't want to be a financial planner working at a bank. That was never my goal.
Yeah.
I want to help people one-on-one or in groups, but more in a coaching counselor type format. And so I had
Exactly.
a couple friends from the States who did the American version, and they said it's great. They have thriving businesses as coaches. So that's
There's a lot of CFPs out there already, and
Mhm.
CFAs and
Yeah.
all the other letters,
Yes.
PFPs.
Yes.
And it's okay. There's room for a lot of different kinds
Mhm.
of people, like, personal
Yeah.
finance coach, a counselor, so you would probably spend a lot more time with people.
Yes, exactly.
Trying
and
to-
and the kind of purpose and what I always wanted to do wasn't just to be like, all right, let's make a financial plan and then see you in a year.
Mhm.
It really is about being a teacher. And I think
Yes.
that's what's really missing with, if you were to go to a traditional financial institution and go to a CFP, they're not going to spend hours a
They make
week
the
with you to
plan
teach
for
you.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the element that's missing. It's like, I want to be able to teach myself out of a job. I want to teach people so they can go off and do their finances on their own and understand all of that
Yeah,
information.
I like that too. You
Yeah.
teach people to fish.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of if you just give them fish, they'll
Mhm.
eat them, and then they'll
And
be
then
like,
they'll-
"Can
yeah,
I have
exactly.
some more fish, please?"
Yeah.
Just to continue with that analogy as far as possible. So that's awesome. I think one of the last things I want to talk about before we get to the special
Mhm.
questions from the internet segment,
Yes.
which I'm very excited about, you
too.
can tell,
Me too.
is travel.
I love travel.
Yes,
Ugh.
I also love travel. Now, of course, I was terrified of everything for about a good 15 years of my adulthood, if you will. When does adulthood start?
Lord
At
knows.
15?
I don't know. I feel like I just started.
Anyway, I only started traveling for real when I was 30.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'll be 37 in September. Still a millennial.
Yes,
Still.
you are.
Come and challenge me on this.
Yeah.
I went to Japan. That was my first for a week.
Yeah.
I'll tell everybody, don't go to Japan for just a week.
No, you have to go
can't see
'cause
everything.
There's so much.
I couldn't
there's
afford
so
the
much.
time
Yeah,
to take any
I know.
more.
I know. Yeah.
But I got a Japan rail pass. It was great. I went up to Nagano where they had the Olympics. I went to Osaka and I stayed in Tokyo. So I've been a whole bunch of places since then. We went to Kenya in November.
Yeah.
My wife is in Nepal right now. I
Yeah.
just can't go
I
because
wanna
I
go to Nepal.
have commitments.
It's on my
Yeah.
list.
So we
Yeah.
talk to her when she comes back. They're like hiking in the Himalayas, like in the
Yeah.
realm of the Himalayas right
Yeah.
now, not like up
No.
the Mount Everest or
Yeah.
anything. It's Everest, right? I always
I don't.
yeah, I think it is.
Or is it Kilimanjaro?
No, Kilimanjaro. I know because
Okay,
I was in
thank
Kenya. That's
It's
in
like I always get those.
Tanzania.
I'm like, which one's where?
That's a good. Actually, that's probably a good thing. I've been to Kenya, so I know that for
Okay,
sure. We were on the border of Tanzania, and we could see Kilimanjaro
Okay.
from Kenya. So you've been to Africa.
I have.
I mean, I've just recently been to Kenya, but you were
That was
in
my first
Gambia,
like foreign country trip. Like
like 13 years ago.
I was 18 and I turned 19 when I was there.
Okay.
So that was my I'd finished 1 year of university. And I went on that trip, and it was a volunteer missionary trip. Not something I ever thought I would do.
Yeah.
But it was 2 months in the Gambia, and it was an interesting experience to say the least. I mean, I look back on it fondly now.
Yes.
But, coming back. I mean, it was a mission trip. So, the bulk of the purpose of the trip was to spread the word of Jesus. And honestly, the reason I went on the trip really was I wanted to do something crazy and different.
And sometimes spreading, the missionary work is, when we were in Kenya, it's everywhere. That's a way to get places.
So it's like now I have a lot of different thoughts about voluntourism, which is kind of what it was. And also I went on this, 2-month trip with a bunch of, I think largely most of them were Mennonites and Protestant.
Okay.
I come from a Catholic background where we do not preach. We are do not talk about your religion.
Yeah.
It's all about being
You're
quiet
welcome,
and respectful.
welcome to join, but or do your own thing.
It's kneel and shush.
Please be quiet.
So it was a very interesting experience being with people that when you go to church, it's all about making noise and singing. And it was like, whoa, this is so not my
so
background.
You're in Africa and it's a bit overwhelming.
It's a bit overwhelming.
And you're almost 19.
I was like, it was my first trip kind of on my own without family or anything like that. And I honestly, I wanted to have a cool experience and make some friends and hopefully to kind of do some good. And I may have done a little good. I volunteered at an orphanage nearby for a little bit, but looking back, if anyone, asked me, oh, is this a good way to give back and help people? Personally, no. I'd say just donate money.
The voluntourism,
or just go on that trip, but don't have the expectation that you're helping. Like donate money, then go on the trip.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of my perspective now.
When I went to Peru for a month, it was voluntourism as well. It was originally to teach English, but when I got there, I realized it was
Does everyone already know English?
Babysitting. No, it wasn't teaching English. It was like we learned one word of English today, and then you're a primary school teacher. Which I didn't. I wanted to help people learn English. That's it. I didn't, So I ended up going to the Amazon and helping there in the jungle, which was nice. But I really felt like we weren't making that much of a difference.
No.
And though we didn't, the goal was always just to leave without, making any kind of an impact, footprint, and maybe make it a little bit better. You're right. It can be done in a completely different way. And so, that's a little bit about the charitable reasons for traveling. But I want to talk about the more selfish reasons for traveling.
So after that, I did get a bit of a travel bug. And after that, I'm like, I want to go everywhere. And I was in university, so I didn't have that much money. So I had to wait until after to kind of go on a couple other trips. But after that, the big trip was me and my husband went to Thailand for about a month. And that was amazing. He'd been before, and he also has friends that live in Thailand. They're Thai, and they have a business.
Oh, that's
so
they
told us all kind of like, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, and we stayed at their place in Bangkok, and they had the most absolutely gorgeous
that's amazing
place in downtown Bangkok.
I wish I had. Do you feel like on trips like that? I feel like my creativity and my perspective. The change of perspective, all that stuff, it's totally worth the price of travel.
Oh my gosh. The big reason we went to Thailand when we did, because it was a couple of months before we got married. So everyone's like, oh, are you going on a pre-honeymoon? We're like, sure. But it was kind of a trip of self-discovery, and we both knew it because we were considering
good,
whether
yeah.
we should move or, we're like, what are we going to do after we get married? Like, just keep doing things that, And so we definitely knew we needed both a trip to kind of just set our minds right and really disconnect from our daily lives and really travel and experience something new. And absolutely, like, I have one story where we were in Chiang Mai and I went to this used bookstore to get another book to read. And I found this book that was kind of out of the bookshelf a little bit. And it was from Kelly Catrone, who she was on a reality show. She's like big in the fashion industry, but she's kind of like a boss and kind of a hard lady.
Okay.
But she's awesome. And she wrote a book called If You Want to Cry, Go Outside, which is why I love her.
I think I've heard that phrase once or twice in my life.
And so I saw this book. I'm like, oh my God, this is a sign. I need to read this book. And because I'm like, I wanted to do something cool, and I really wanted to focus on my career and do something different and risky. And that's what the whole book is about, is all of the risks she took in her career and how she ended up where she was. But the crazy thing about that story was, I went to the register to buy it, and they're like, where'd you get that book? I'm like, just in that bookshelf. They're like, we don't carry this book. Some traveler must have come in, stolen one of our books, and put that book in its place.
What?
So they weren't even supposed to have that book.
Oh.
Wasn't that crazy? I mean, it's not like a beautiful work of fiction, but it was a pretty inspirational book at that moment in my life to kind of kick me in the pants, to be like, don't be afraid to like move to a new city to start over. Just do it and see what happens.
And then
and
so
we did.
You got back.
And
you got married.
We got married, and then we literally I had like one more or maybe 2 more weeks at my job after we got married, and then we sold all of our stuff, got out of our apartment, went on our honeymoon to Disneyland because it was our dream of ours, and then we road tripped it from Vancouver to Toronto, and didn't know anybody in town, maybe a few acquaintances we knew, and didn't have any jobs. And
I like you said you'd never been here.
I'd never been to Toronto before we moved here. Josh had been here. He went to a conference here, and he called me on the phone. He's like, I think you'll like it. I'm like, yeah, good enough for me.
I don't think that's a common thing.
No?
Well, I don't. You know what? That's a good point. Like, say you're moving to another country.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's more common. And I mean, Toronto and Vancouver are that far apart.
No, but it's like, you'd think I'd check out the city before moving my whole life and quitting my job and all that stuff.
But at least he went. And
yes, he
so
went.
You had that, and you trust him. So that's fine. I'm not going to say
it's
that much of a strange thing, but it obviously worked out.
It worked out. I love it here. I really do.
So what about plans for the future for traveling?
For traveling, well, immediate. We're going to Coburg for the weekend.
I
don't
exotic
another
Coburg.
Place I've never been. Another place I've never
you
been.
And
it does
many
sound like
others.
we're going to Germany, but really, it's just a small town, an hour outside of Toronto. So those are our immediate plans. But we've got plans to visit the Maritimes in the summer. So we have a wedding in Nova Scotia, but I hope to do.
That's nice.
I've been there before, but I want to go again because, again, I think the last time I was there was in grade 12 and to visit some family, and I absolutely loved it.
My wife's family's from Cape Breton.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so,
so
I really need to. She's been out a couple of times since we've been married.
You need to get there.
I need to get there.
So beautiful.
We've been picking Africa.
I know.
Indonesia.
And it's hard too. You're like, do I want to go to someplace in Canada or do I want to go to this really cool country? Right?
I know it's really hard to make those decisions because we did the last year. We went up on a nice real trip to Tobermory, which was really nice, and national parks and provincial parks and stuff. So there's time for different types of trips, and each one has its benefits. And I think the benefits are always that you have a break.
Yeah.
So if there was anything, you don't necessarily have to have anything bad going on in your life.
No.
But if there's anything you were thinking about changing or thinking about that's different, it's really hard to change it when you're in it.
Yep. Exactly.
So stepping away, you did the Thailand thing. I went to Peru, and when I got back from Peru, the gambling was completely gone.
Yeah.
I was a new person, and I got back, and I met my wife, and I started a new job, which was paying me $20,000 more than my previous job. Everything was kind of lining up, and I never looked back.
Yeah, travel can do amazing things.
Travel is great.
I love it.
And
so Maritimes, but hopefully future plans to go someplace a little bit more exotic.
Would
I'd
you-
love to go to South America. That was one of our things on the list. So
Peru's
we'll
good.
see. We'll see.
I like Peru. It's also a little cheaper.
Yes,
right?
no,
Peru
I've
and
heard great
Bolivia
things about Peru,
are
actually.
more affordable. Costa Rica, we've been a couple of times.
I hear it's expensive though.
It's like here. The
Yeah,
prices are
yeah.
like here. So
Mhm.
but it's really awesome and nice.
Mhm.
Different parts of it too. There's volcanoes.
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
in and around many volcanoes, and apparently it's my thing to go to volcanoes and find them. But would
Mhm.
you ever consider moving somewhere and then working like remotely from there?
Oh
Or,
yeah,
like
that's been
going
a dream.
Yeah?
I don't know if it's possible. Like I could do it probably for my job just because it is more
That's right.
online.
Oh,
but my
you-
husband,
he
he
can't-
does need to be at a studio.
Yeah. Okay. That's
So, but if we could figure out a place where he can work at a studio, like there's a friend of his who knows people who have a studio in Portugal, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I would move there in a heartbeat. I don't know Portuguese. I'll learn it.
it's I know French and Spanish and Portuguese.
I know
It's
French,
still a
but
mystery.
it's similar, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, I think it's
It's
time
Let's
for
do it.
questions
Let's do it.
from the internet. Okay, so what was your biggest investment mistake?
Oh, honestly.
Do you have one?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't something that's like, oh my God, this ruined me. But I would honestly say before I got married, I didn't have a lot of money invested, but I did have them invested through Tangerine's index funds.
Yeah.
And it was simple, and I just kept them, and it was all tickety-boo. But when we got married, my husband was going to move more. He had some investments through RBC through an inheritance. And so
Okay.
he had a bunch of mutual funds. And we just thought it'd be easier if we moved things together.
Yeah.
And so I changed all my investments and invested a ton of money into mutual funds. And
You took your Tangerine stuff out and moved
Yeah.
it over to his.
Yes.
I see.
And nothing against mutual funds, but personally, I wish I didn't do that because the fees are crazy high.
They had high MERs.
And I didn't, the performance was not that great. So
Okay.
rectified that by switching, and now I'm investing in ETFs.
Yep. ETFs.
So,
ETFs is
yeah.
where it's at.
So yeah, that's not a very exciting answer to your question.
No, I
But,
have
it is
I have
what
a
it
similar
is.
one. I
Yeah.
had mine with Investors Group,
Yeah.
and I had paid deferred sales charges to get them
Yeah.
out of like 4%
I know.
to get them out. I mentioned that when you guys were speaking at the Tangerine event.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a
Yeah.
pretty basic one.
Yeah, it's pretty
Okay.
standard.
So this is there more to this question? Yeah. I'm getting $1,000 a month for the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
What should I do with it? And there's more detail.
Mhm.
I'm 16, and after winning a lawsuit, I'm getting $1,000 a month starting this month
Okay.
until 2027.
Wow.
I
okay.
legally cannot touch this money until I'm 18. It's being put
Okay.
in a closed account. What are ideas of smart things I can do with this money other than pay for college?
So he cannot touch it until he's 18.
So in essence, he's going to have like 24 grand
Mhm.
at 18, and then
Yeah.
after then he can like spend the $1,000 a month.
Well, yeah.
It sounds like a lot, but it's not.
No. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like that what's that lottery or that
The Cash for Life.
Cash for Life. You're like, that's not.
But I think that's
you
like
know,
$1,000 a
it's
week.
like $1,000 a week, but still,
Yeah.
it's like $4,000 a month. Isn't like
You know what?
You're
It's not
I
great.
mean, if it's. I mean, if you're.
I never thought about it that
if you're
way.
unemployed, and
Sure.
you're like, oh, now I can live.
That's right.
But it's not like that's
Or you
that's
can just
gonna
keep working
change
part time.
everything.
You can keep working part time,
Yeah.
or decide to do
Yeah.
the dream job or
Yeah.
a side hustle.
Well, yeah. Okay, so
So
for that
$1,000
answer,
for
yeah.
10 years. I don't think that I think the person needs to live their life.
I think
still.
they need to live their life. I'm more conservative. I would say, obviously, use that money to pay for university if that's what he wants to do, or go to trade school or whatever. So you don't have to get any loans.
Yeah.
Put some money aside for a down payment if you want to buy a house. Put some money aside for travel, and invest a chunk of it because you're so freaking young.
Well, what's missing here
Yeah.
is the person's goals, because he's 16.
Yeah, he has no goals.
And
He has to
doesn't
figure
have
those
any
out.
goals. He's like,
Yeah.
I might want to go to college. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Like,
would say even if he doesn't know anything, just like invest half of it or something in index funds when you're 18. Oh, that's
But,
another thing.
well-
Is like, can you imagine if you started investing your money? Like, if I invested my money at 18 as opposed to like 25.
the difference
I mean,
in
the difference
compounding.
in those few years.
It's those last
you know?
years.
Yeah.
It's the last couple of years right before retirement or before you're going to take it out.
Mhm.
That just like things like double.
I know.
It's incredible to see.
Yeah.
And you don't think it makes a difference. It doesn't make a difference at the beginning, but it makes a difference at the end.
Yeah.
And so, we're not going to tell them to blow it, right?
No, don't.
And you can't just like, oh, good, that's enough to live on, so just use it to live.
It's like, let it grow.
Let it grow.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to
let
be
it
like
grow.
maybe even when he's like, 46.
Yeah.
Like 30, that's 30,
Yeah.
30 years
Yeah.
of $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
If we did put that in a financial plan right now,
Yeah.
that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
He would be set.
He
And
would
then he
be
could
set
retire at
for
46
life.
or 40, cash for
Exactly.
life.
I know.
Okay, I like that one. Okay, let's do a non-money one. If you had a time machine, would you tell anyone? Not where would you go or anything,
Would
but
I
would
tell
you
anyone?
keep it to yourself?
I would tell my husband, 'cause
Okay.
then we'd go on adventures together.
It's like, would
But
you just
I
like?
don't know.
And then
That's
of
a good
course,
question.
what would you do? Is
I
the
feel
obvious?
like if I told too many people, they may kill me because
Yeah.
they want to take over.
or
Right?
like just or hopefully not kill you, but that's to join you.
It's true.
But
I
yeah,
just
if you
feel
told the
like
wrong
it
people-
could get a bit dangerous. So yeah, I'd probably only tell my husband, and that's it. Is that selfish? Probably.
No, I think because you're right. Because if you trust anyone else with it, they could go back and change something.
And I don't want to be responsible for what they alter the future. Like I don't want to be like, oh, I let so.
Hey, can I borrow your time machine for a weekend?
Comes back and dinosaurs are still around.
Yeah.
And you're like, what did
It's
you
like
do?
Donald Trump is everywhere.
you're like,
There's like
why? What
Donald
did you
Trump is
do?
president of every country.
Of everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, I don't want to have that on my conscience.
I just like the question. But I want to. What would you do with it?
What would I do with it? I don't know if I'd really want to go back in time. I mean, so much history is so dark.
It is. Okay, I always like this idea of you're going back and maybe you're just an observer
Okay.
and you can't change anything.
Yeah, that'd be okay.
What would you want? Is there anything you really want to go
I'll be
go
honest,
see?
I'm like a big period piece buff.
Okay.
Love Jane Austen.
Okay,
so
so
I'd
you
totally
go back to
to those times.
And just like
and
dress
just
up in
try
the
to-
clothes
just-
and like hang out in tea
see what's
rooms
going
and
on
stuff.
and try to make Jane Austen my friend and we talk about books.
That's good. I like it. I would probably go back to some kind of dinosaur time. That
That's
would be
terrifying.
well, the idea is I'm protected somehow.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm.
Okay.
It's
I'd
like
still not.
it's like I'm
no.
going back. Maybe I'm
That's
going
like
back.
doing Jurassic Park. I'm not doing that.
It's still be terrifying even if you're just watching.
Yeah.
Like let's say if it was a
I don't
time
care
machine
if I'm safe,
screen.
I'd still be terrified.
It's a screen that you can go back and look at anything.
I just don't trust. Like I just the guarantee. Like where's the guarantee? in
Where's the
that?
there's no
Like,
guarantee.
I
just made it
the
up,
People at
so-
Jurassic Park thought they were safe.
That's right. They did.
They were
They
not.
did. Okay, this is money related.
Mm-hmm.
And probably you probably answered this question.
Oh.
How do you live your life frugally among extravagant friends? And a lot of people face this
Yeah, no,
problem.
that's a
Maybe
big
they grew up with
issue.
somebody and they're wealthy,
Yeah.
but they're still trying to get by.
I feel like that was like my whole like
You've been through
childhood
this, yeah.
and teenagehood was all my friends. It's not necessarily that they had more money. They just like either got allowances so they had more money on hand, or maybe their family had a little bit more money, or they were just a little bit more free with spending. And I was always. I had a limited amount of money, and
Yeah.
I couldn't go to my parents to ask for money. That just wasn't.
And
how
they
it
probably
was.
knew that they could go ask to buy some
Exactly.
sneakers
It's like
or
I could never be
whatever.
like, Mom, can I have $50? It's like that. She'd be like, no. What do you need? And I'll get it for you.
That's right.
And then you're like, I don't want it's a whole.
I want it.
But when you're an adult, it's a bit tricky. You don't want to like end friendships because you don't like how they spend their money.
Yeah, there's a whole Friends episode about this.
yeah.
Early Friends days.
I mean, for me, in general, because I do have this platform and I talk about money so much, people don't like judge me or anything. They know that, okay, we understand why she doesn't want to buy this or whatever. So I think kind of opening communication and just like being like, hey guys, I don't want to spend my money on that. And sometimes what I have found when I have opened up myself to that, people are like, oh, good. Like they're like
they never thought about
thankful
it,
that they
right?
can also talk about that. And maybe they're like, oh,
Yeah.
I was just trying to keep up the Joneses because I thought that's what everyone else was doing.
No, we
And
don't
knowing
have to
someone
do
else
this. Yeah.
that is living a bit more frugally, and that's okay, is actually like, oh, maybe I can change my ways too.
So open communication is key.
Don't be afraid to talk about money. I think that's, and just if everyone had that mindset of not being afraid to talk about money in a respectful way, obviously, lots of people would probably not have as many money problems as they
Probably
do
not
now.
the $99 bottle service.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they have to do that.
Oh my
You
gosh.
can have a drink before.
I
and
know.
then
It's like whatever
go
happened to pre-drinking.
and
That's all I
dance.
did before going out when I was, in my early 20s. Is like we would pre-drink because it was too expensive at the bar.
I'm so glad that I missed the bottle service days.
I don't think that was a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or if it was, I was still like, why would you spend that much
I
money?
just can't.
That's so
I
stupid.
can't fathom it. I haven't had a drink for 9 years, but when I go to a bar, I spend like $5 on a Coke.
Yeah.
Like
Drinks
what?
are expensive.
Drinks are expensive. I was like, do I have to pre-drink like non-alcoholic drinks now? This is really
I know.
unfortunate. But so yeah, and if somebody gives you a hard time, if you
Yeah.
are with a friend, they give you a hard time, they're not really a friend.
Absolutely. They should love you and respect you for everything that you're doing.
That's
They
right.
should want you to better yourself.
And if they don't, you got to cut them loose.
Bye.
See you later.
See you later.
Okay, we'll do a couple more of these.
Okay.
So I'm liking this.
Me too.
What is your personal pat on the back that you give yourself when you achieve a huge goal that you set?
Pat on the back. Like a little treat or reward.
Or a big treat. You know, like what if it was, like Sean when he paid his $450,000 house off?
What was his...
Well, he threw a burn your mortgage party.
Right, he had a
burned his
party.
mortgage, but he spent a little bit of money on that party,
Right.
like $1,000 or whatever, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess for me, for a treat, when I am to spend my money as a reward, it's things that make me happy, that make me feel good, that I value. So it would be... Food is always kind of my top
Like
one. It's like,
fancy
okay, we
dinner,
did
or-
this. Yeah, like
Yeah.
and by fancy, I mean like going to the Keg. Like
Yeah.
whenever I've gone to like a really high end restaurant, I'm always like, this was overpriced.
And it's
you know,
it's
because I'm not a
tiny,
fancy person.
And
so,
it's probably food that is not like the food that you're looking for.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's always amazing, but I'm like, oh, it's so expensive. Like, yeah, no, can't. So
One
usually, like,
ravioli.
yeah,
Oh,
I know. And
ravi-
you're like, I'm so hungry,
That reminds me, we went to a restaurant
Mhm.
and it said raviolo,
and you're like, just one.
and it was just one. It was
No.
one. I don't know if I went to this restaurant
That's
or
crazy.
somebody just told me about this, but I
No.
thought raviolo was amazing.
That's insane.
I've never, no
No.
one's ever said that before. So, okay, so
Yeah.
food.
So food and maybe a drink comes with food, kind of. Sometimes an experience. Like one thing me and my husband do for our anniversary every year since we've been married is instead of buying each other gifts, we generally just don't buy each other gifts because we don't need anything.
Yeah.
And it's just like we don't want to perpetuate this whole
We
materialistic
don't do gifts
thing,
anymore.
right? So to celebrate, to kind of reward ourselves, hey, we did good this year. We didn't break up.
Yeah.
We're still loving each other. We're doing good. We do an experience. So the first
Perfect.
year of after our first year of marriage, on our first year anniversary, we went to dining in the dark. So romantic.
Yeah.
Didn't see each other.
Wait, what? The one here?
Yeah, the one here.
Au Noir?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
We went once.
That was super fun.
Oh,
it was
it's-
such a weird experience.
I ate everything with my hands.
Oh yeah, I ate everything with my hands too because I'm like, I don't know where anything
If they would have turned the
is.
lights on in the middle of the meal,
It would've been
I would have
everywhere.
been all over. I don't even know. Sometimes it's crazy what you do when the lights go off.
Yeah, it's the weirdest experience, but it was amazing. So we did that.
Everybody should do that. I recommend it to
Yes.
everybody.
Yeah, I think last year we did the restaurant, the revolving restaurant, the CN Tower.
Yeah.
It was okay, actually.
360.
Yeah, it was an experience just to see the view, but the food was kind of meh. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but it was fun anyway.
It's
and
about the experience
yeah,
more
I
so.
can't remember what we did year 2. I think we just went to a new restaurant that we hadn't tried. Oh, and no, we went to a comedy show
Yeah.
at a comedy bar, which
Nice.
is an amazing comedy place in town. And this year, I think we're going to go rock climbing.
Nice. Like
Indoor rock climbing.
There's a
There's
couple
a
of
place on
places.
floor.
There's one in
Yeah,
town.
it used to be an old porno theater. Now
Okay.
it's a mountain climbing place.
You know what they say? Once a porno theater, then the
Always
rock
a-
climbing place.
Oh yeah,
I
I'm
don't
like,
know.
what's the saying?
That's it's a very common saying.
So yeah, I guess I'd spend my money on food and experiences. That's the answer.
I
to
like
that
it. It's
question,
good.
yeah.
I'm a big food fan and an experience fan, and I
Mhm.
mean travel if you
Mhm,
have the
mhm.
time or the money to do that too. Okay, so the last one, it's very patriotic question.
Oh.
Is Canada a paradise? And I think this might be coming from someone from not Canada.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I absolutely love being Canadian. I mean, the only other place I've considered maybe moving is maybe the UK, just because I have roots from there and I love British television. So I'm like,
Downton.
oh, I could fit in right on. I love their TV. Downton Abbey. Oh no, like I watch like everything
all of the
from
ones?
UK. Like any kind of
Broadchurch?
show.
Have you
I
seen
literally
Broadchurch?
I just watched this docu-series called A Year in the Commons. It was like a documentary, a 4-part series about how their House of Commons works, and it was amazing.
You watched it?
I know, right? That's how much I love the UK. So,
Wow,
but
okay.
I absolutely love being Canadian and love Canada. I would never, I love my home.
Yeah, Canada's
country.
great. Do you think that we take it for granted sometimes?
Absolutely. I think,
Or
yeah,
all the time?
I think we do take it, especially, I mean, you realize that when you do travel to other countries and you realize that they have different laws and restrictions, and you're like, we are so privileged to have all the freedoms we have here.
Yeah, and we don't even know.
Don't even know.
You
We
know,
don't even
a
know.
coworker of mine, he's from Costa Rica, and he basically said to me, like, Canada's awesome. Like, you don't even know how good it is. Like, Costa Rica's cool and all, but I came here and he lived in Miami for a little bit, and he's like, they're terrible in Miami, right? Like, he obviously spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
A lot of people in Miami speak Spanish, but people wouldn't speak Spanish to him for some reason.
Weird.
I know. They
That's
would just
really
be like,
weird.
they're like discriminatory for some reason.
Huh.
But we would never do that here. He went to Tim Hortons,
Mm-hmm.
and he was trying to talk to somebody, and they were just taking their time with him,
Yeah.
and maybe they even found somebody who speaks Spanish to make it easier. That's kind of who we are, right?
Yeah, I think we're a very friendly and open country, and that's what I think, especially the openness and the freedom and just like being really accepting of people.
That's right.
Like that's what I love about this country so much.
Well, I think that's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for doing this. This is great, and I
Yeah.
really enjoyed the questions from the internet.
Me too.
So people need to find you on the interwebs.
You can find me at jessicamoorhouse.com. That's where my blog is. I have my podcast episodes on there as well. My podcast is called the Mo Money Podcast. You can find it on iTunes.
Mo
and
Money, Mo Problems.
Mo Money, Mo Problems.
Is
Well, it's
it-
because my original name for my blog was Mo Money, Mo Houses.
Yes.
And then I think even early episodes of my podcast, I still call it the Mo Money.
It did.
Yeah,
And-
Mo Money,
and
Mo Houses.
When I loaded them in, the old picture came
I
up
have
too.
to change that. I'm gonna have to
No,
update that.
but it's funny because the original picture is there until you download it, and then the new picture shows
Oh,
up. So
weird.
the old one pops up,
Oh,
and I'm like,
I know.
oh, interesting. Okay, so the Mo Money, and you can,
Yeah.
I mean, you just get any podcast thing and search for Jessica
Exactly.
or Mo Money podcast.
And I'm starting to do some more vlogs or videos or whatever we call
Yeah, the
them.
YouTube.
I did my first video, and I messaged my younger sister, who's way more in tune with YouTube. I'm like, I did my first vlog, and she's like, that's not what a vlog is.
Wait, what is a vlog?
I don't know. I still don't.
We'll
quite know.
never
I thought it was
know.
a video blog. I don't know. I don't know what a vlog is.
I'm still trying to
but
figure
I'm doing
out-
more video. So
Figure out what fetch is.
it's so bad. It's never gonna be a thing.
I still say awesome, and that I know that that's not a word that kids use.
People don't they?
But
say-
people that are
I say awesome a
yeah,
lot.
I know, but
Aw.
17-year-olds do not say
What do
awesome.
they say?
They
do
say-
they still say cool?
No, I don't think so. They say
Oh.
words that we don't even understand.
Dang it.
It's like a bunch of abbreviations of things, and
Yeah.
every once in a while I try to talk to my cousins and figure
Mhm.
things out. But so you got the vlog.
I do
which
have the
is
vlog.
a vlog,
Yeah,
but
so
not
I have
not
a
vlog.
YouTube channel. I think it's just like YouTube/C/Jessica Moorhouse 1, I believe.
Yeah, the
there's
YouTube
not an
channel
easy-
addresses are terrible.
Yeah, it's
Just go and
terrible.
search for Jessica Moorhouse.
Yeah.
You'll find.
And if you want to learn more about money personalities like we talked earlier, just go to jessicamoorhouse.com/quiz.
You got the
and
quiz.
you can take my quiz for free. It
That's
takes
right.
like 1 minute.
And you have a
Find
whole
out your
bunch of
personality.
other tools.
I do. I have a whole resource library of things,
Just
checklists.
put your email in.
Well, yeah. So just go
right?
to jessicamoorhouse.com/resources and you give me your email because I need it to email you things, and you get access to my whole resource library. So easy
So you
peasy.
got that, and then go to the media page to see a whole bunch of
Yeah.
things
you
in the
want.
Huffington Post or whatever. Some of
Yeah.
them are quotes, some of them are full articles, some of them are, just there's an internet full of Jessica Moorhouse out there.
Apparently,
Yeah.
I'm not the only one Googling me.
Oh, and go and listen to the
Yes.
podcast that I was on,
Yes.
where I tell my story,
that was
which
such
I
a great episode.
I probably will do in a monologue at some point or a series of them because
Yeah.
it's a long story.
It is a long story. You should absolutely do a monologue.
I will, but for now, it's on Jessica's episode 85, if
I
I'm not
think you're
mistaken.
right.
It's because I look at it a
Oh,
lot. It's like,
you're like, is it still there?
well, it's on. I think it's on my website because it was the only podcast that I had
Yet.
until this podcast.
Yes.
Okay, well,
Wow.
so go find Jessica. Jessica, thanks so much
Thanks
for
for
being
having
on
me.
mine. Even though you're a podcast superstar, you come to this
please.
new podcast over here, and I really appreciate it. And thanks.
You're welcome.